Right now, Apple is the most valuable company in the world. Its market cap hovers around $3 trillion. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, each worth between $2 and $3 trillion. Put all four of them together. Add a few more. You still haven't reached the peak value of a company that was founded in 1602 by a group of Dutch spice merchants. The Dutch East India Company, known by its Dutch initials, the VOC, was, at its peak, worth an estimated $8.2 trillion in today's money, the single most valuable corporation in human history. But here is what made the VOC extraordinary. It wasn't just a company. It had its own army, its own navy, its own currency, its own legal system, the legal right to wage war, sign peace treaties, build forts, and govern territories in the name of the Dutch Republic. It was a corporation with the powers of a nation-state, and for 200 years, it used those powers to control the global spice trade so completely that it could set the price of pepper for the entire world. This is the story of the most profitable company ever built, and the wealth system that made it possible. To understand the VOC, you need to understand what spices meant in the 1600s. Today, you can buy a jar of black pepper for $1. In 17th century Europe, black pepper was worth its weight in silver. Nutmeg, a single nutmeg, could be sold in Amsterdam for a profit of 3,200%. A single voyage to the Spice Islands carrying nutmeg and cloves could make a merchant wealthy enough to retire for life. The reason was simple. Europe had no refrigeration. Spices preserved food, masked the taste of spoiling meat, and were used in medicines, perfumes, and luxury goods. Demand was enormous. Supply was controlled by a tiny number of islands in what is now Indonesia, the Maluku Islands, or the Spice Islands, and by the Arab and Portuguese traders who controlled the routes between those islands and Europe. The Portuguese had dominated the spice trade for most of the 1500s, making enormous profits. The Dutch watched. They calculated, and then they decided to not just compete, but to take over completely. To do that, they needed capital on a scale that no individual merchant or even group of merchants could provide. They needed a new kind of financial structure. The first rule of the VOC Wealth Code. When the opportunity is bigger than any individual can fund, create a structure that lets thousands of people fund it together. In 1602, the Dutch Republic created the VOC and simultaneously created the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. For the first time in history, ordinary people could buy shares in a company and receive a portion of its profits. The world's first publicly traded stock, the world's first stock market, both invented in the same year for the same company. The VOC raised 6.5 million guilders in its initial share, offering an enormous sum for the time. With this capital, it built a fleet of ships, hired an army of soldiers, and sent them to the Spice Islands with one mission: eliminate all competition. Portuguese trading posts were seized. Local rulers who refused to trade exclusively with the VOC were removed by force. On the island of Banda, the world's only source of nutmeg, the VOC governor, Jan Pieter Zoon Cohen, orchestrated the massacre of virtually the entire local population and replaced them with Dutch colonists, creating what was essentially a Dutch-owned nutmeg plantation. By the 1620s, the VOC had achieved what no company before or since has ever fully achieved: a complete monopoly on the world supply of nutmeg, mace, and cloves, and a near monopoly on black pepper. This meant the VOC didn't just profit from the spice trade. It set the price entirely for the entire world. The second rule, a monopoly on supply, is the ultimate business position. When you control all of something everyone needs, you name your price. The VOC used this position to pay its shareholders a dividend every single year for the first 200 years of its existence, including during wars, storms, and economic crises. The average annual dividend was approximately 18% of the original share price. The VOC was not just militarily dominant. It was financially innovative in ways that transformed the entire global economy. It created the world's first bond market, allowing investors to lend money to the company at fixed interest rates. It created standardized shipping insurance. It pioneered double-entry bookkeeping on a corporate scale. It established the first modern central depository for share certificates. Every financial instrument you interact with today, stocks, bonds, insurance, central clearing, was either invented or systematized by the VOC and the Amsterdam financial system built around it. The Dutch city of Amsterdam in the 1600s was, by any measure, the financial capital of the world. The richest city per capita in history, up to that point. All of it built on the foundation of one corporation's spice monopoly. The third rule, The company that creates the financial infrastructure others depend on profits from every transaction in the system, not just its own. The VOC operated profitably for nearly 200 years. But by the late 1700s, cracks had appeared that would ultimately destroy the greatest corporation in history. The first problem was corruption. As the company expanded, governing territories across Asia, Africa, and the Indian Ocean, it became impossible to monitor every official. Governors, portmasters, and trade inspectors began skimming profits, taking bribes, and trading privately on company routes for personal gain. The hemorrhage of profit through corruption was enormous and almost invisible. The second problem was the dividend trap. For 200 years, shareholders had received generous dividends every year. When profits began to decline, the company's directors faced an impossible choice: cut dividends and watch the share price collapse as investors fled, or borrow money to keep paying dividends, hiding the declining profitability. They chose to borrow. For decades, by the time the VOC was dissolved in 1799, it had debts of 110 million guilders, an astronomical sum. The Dutch government had to absorb the entire debt. The fourth rule: never borrow to pay dividends. The moment you fund returns with debt instead of profit, the collapse has already begun. You just haven't admitted it yet. This is the exact mistake made by dozens of modern corporations. Borrowing to fund share buybacks and dividends while underlying profitability declines. The VOC discovered this trap 200 years before Wall Street fell into it repeatedly. The VOC Wealth Code has 5 rules. 1. When the opportunity is bigger than you, share it. The VOC share offering let thousands of investors fund a venture no individual could, and all of them profited. Creating structures that distribute both risk and reward is how great enterprises are funded. 2. Control supply. Name your price. The spice monopoly gave the VOC pricing power that no competitor could challenge. The most profitable market position is always the one where you set the terms. 3. Build the infrastructure others depend on. The VOC built the financial infrastructure of the modern world: stock markets, bond markets, insurance. Systems that others use are systems that earn forever. 4. Never borrow to fund returns. When a company borrows to pay investors because profits have declined, it is telling investors everything is fine while the foundation collapses. The VOC is history's clearest example. 5. Scale creates corruption. Build oversight before you need it. The VOC's corruption problem was a direct result of its scale. Any organization that grows faster than its accountability structures will eventually be hollowed out from within. The VOC was officially dissolved on December 31, 1799, exactly 197 years after it was founded. In those 197 years, it had fundamentally reshaped the global economy. It had invented the modern stock market. It had built the first multinational corporation. It had dominated global trade for 2 centuries. It had made Amsterdam the financial capital of the world. And it had collapsed, not from external attack, not from a superior competitor, but from the inside. Corruption. Hidden debt. Dividends funded by borrowing. A board of directors who prioritized the appearance of success over its reality. The most valuable company in human history was destroyed by the same forces that have destroyed companies ever since. Short-term thinking, hidden losses, and the refusal to tell shareholders the truth. That is the most important financial lesson the VOC leaves behind, and it is as relevant today as it was in 1799. The greatest wealth systems in history were not destroyed by enemies. They were destroyed by the moment their leaders stopped being honest about what was actually happening. I'm the Money Chronicle, decoding the wealth secrets history forgot to teach you. Subscribe now, and I'll see you in the next video.